All right, everyone, we are going to begin. Once again, my name is Samantha Kulish-Fargione. I'm the Programs and Education Coordinator for the Norwalk Historical Society in Norwalk, Connecticut. Our Executive Director, Diane Gillarette, and myself would like to welcome you to this evening's presentation. Now, before we begin, just a few important reminders. We are going to be recording tonight's presentation, and we will email you a copy of the recording in a few days. And we will also make the video available on Facebook, on our Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube page. And I'm sure that all of the wonderful organizations that are presenting this evening will also be sharing the video amongst their social media pages as well. So that way we can sort of get this presentation out to even more people, those who couldn't be with us this evening. So like I had mentioned, we're going to kindly ask that you keep your microphones and your cameras hidden. That way all eyes are on our speakers this evening. Now we will have a question and answer session. We are going to be using the chat feature to run that. So if you have a question at any point during the presentation, you can click on the speech bubble at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. If you're on a tablet, it's at the top right of your screen, 3 dots, and that brings down a menu, and then you'll click on the word chat. So we are going to be using the chat for question and answer, and at the end of the entire presentation, so once all 5 presenters have finished speaking, Diane Gillarette will be moderating the questions and reading them out to our
Uh-oh, you're muted.
I'm gonna, yep, sorry. So tonight we are gonna be celebrating Earth Day a week early. I know it is, we know it's next Thursday. So tonight we're celebrating it a week early with this evening's presentation, Conservation Norwalk, a Present Day History. So our speakers this evening, to sort of start off the conversation, is going to be Alan Broadbent, who's the president of the Norwalk Tree Alliance, followed by Audrey Kazarin, who's the chair of the Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee, followed by Midge Kennedy, secretary of the Norwalk Land Trust, then Louise Washer from the Norwalk River Watershed Association and the Pollinator Pathway, and closing out will be Beth Merrell from the Norwalk River Valley Trail. So I am going to stop my screen share and turn the presentation over to Alan.
Hello, I'm here. Welcome. We're so glad that you're with us tonight on this opportunity to hear from and learn about the fantastic Norwalk-based environmental groups that have had such an important role to play in the development of the city of Norwalk. As mentioned, I am Alan Broadbent, and I'm by profession a landscape architect, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Norwalk Tree Alliance. My goal tonight is to share with you a little bit about who we are in the Norwalk Tree Alliance, where we've come from, what our history has been, and where we hope to go, and how you might become part of our mission. The Norwalk Tree Alliance is a nonprofit 501c3 that's incorporated in Norwalk. We are not the Tree Advisory Committee, often confused with the Tree Advisory Committee. The Tree Advisory Committee is actually an entity that is part of the city, and they operate in partnership with both Public Works and with our group on the Norwalk Tree Alliance. And together, we move forward the effort of caring for and preserving and enhancing Norwalk's urban forest. So I'm going to share with you a little bit tonight about our mission, our goals, and our history. I'll share screen so that you can see what I'll be presenting. And as mentioned, if you have any questions for me specifically, you can put them in the chat. I would ask that you just, in your question, write to whom your question is addressed, because at the end of 5 speakers, it might be hard to determine that. So you should be able to see my screen now. If at any point my screen drops off, please jump in and let me know. We're going to start on the Norwalk Tree Alliance website, which we're very proud of. We just recently released this completely rebuilt website. Kudos to an incredible volunteer, Emily Berneman, and Anna Thurston from our board, who took on this major effort. The Norwalk Tree Alliance has a mission to promote and protect the urban forest of Norwalk, just as I said, and we do that through several goals. One of our goals is to plant trees on both public and private properties throughout the city of Norwalk. We also implement education and awareness programs. We have been pioneers in some pretty awesome education for Norwalk's public schools. We also advise key constituencies on the matters relating to managing our forest. And this might include the city of Norwalk. It might include relationships with public utilities such as Eversource. And it also includes collaboration with all of the wonderful people that you'll hear from tonight. And as we do that, we have helped and continue to help Norwalk to gain its Tree City USA status, which indicates that the city is working hard and making efforts to continue on the path toward greater awareness of the urban forest and continued improvement and development of that forest. So where did we come from and why do we exist? The Norwalk Tree Alliance was started in 2003 by a great group of individuals, and it was started initially in collaboration with the city to form a nonprofit arm that could carry out various tree-related initiatives separate and independent from city initiatives, but coordinated in partnership with them. Early on in the history of the Tree Alliance, we developed a unique relationship with the public schools, wherein the Norwalk Tree Alliance comes together with the city to have a ceremony and a tree planting at an elementary school in Norwalk for each and every Arbor Day. And this was started in 2004 and has continued ever since then. It's a fantastic opportunity and allows the children to understand the meaning of Arbor Day in more than just pictures and words, but actually being part of the planting of a tree on their own campus. And we found that to be an awesome opportunity for educating them. We received a significant grant from the Home Depot Foundation, and we earned first place in the small city category, gaining national recognition for Norwalk and $75,000 to help in our efforts to revitalize our green infrastructure. I'm going to talk as part of my presentation a little bit about why so much emphasis on trees. I get this question quite often. They say to me, people around here, there are so many trees. I moved from Texas or I moved from California. This place is just has trees everywhere. There are trees in every location that I seem to look at. The reality, however, is that urban centers, and Norwalk especially, actually suffer from quite a deficiency in tree canopy. And I'm going to share some slides with you to sort of explain what that is. So the Norwalk Tree Alliance has had a goal in partnership with the City Public Works and with the Tree Advisory Committee to find ways to improve Norwalk's tree canopy, especially in our dense urban center, where we have greater impervious surface area and fewer trees and thriving ecosystems. The Norwalk Tree Alliance pioneered the Connecticut Tree Festival, which started in Calf Pasture Park and then moved to Cranberry Park. And this tree festival ran for 10 years, was a massive undertaking, and was in collaboration with other communities adjoining Norwalk, brought together both vendors and service providers, arborists and tree companies, and city staff from local communities, and invited the public, and more than 2,000 people every year would attend this tree festival, where we would talk about and learn about the proper care of trees and what we can do to promote the urban forest. That festival was discontinued in 2017. It sort of grew too large for us to manage on our own. In 2013, we received a grant from America the Beautiful and planted native tree saplings in the tree farm at Fodor Farm. The Fodor Farm is a beautiful old property in Norwalk that has a wonderful historic legacy. And we have a small piece of property on that farm that we've been given access to have a tree farm. In 2014, we undertook a massive tree identification effort to try to help citizens see, understand, and recognize the types of trees that they see all around them. And these signs went up on trees in Cranberry Park, at the Rosa Parks Arboretum at Jefferson School, at Matthews Park, Calf Pasture Beach, and Shady Beach. In 2015, we began a program in partnership with the 3rd Taxing District, which is representative of East Norwalk. And they give grant money to the Norwalk Tree Alliance, and we provide in return massive amount of volunteer effort to run a tree lottery, wherein citizens of their taxing district can put their name forward to win a free tree to be planted on their property by the Tree Alliance. That has been a hugely successful program for us. It's been so great that we've actually extended that to the 6th taxing district, although the program is being run in a different way in that district, given the nature of each of them have different character. In 2018, we began a lease of an office space at Fodor Farm, and this was a very pivotal moment for our organization to have a physical location that we have a strong connection to and that we can meet at and provide programming for the community. And that became the location for our tree school. Tree school was pioneered by my predecessor and a group of fantastic individuals, Andrew Strauss, among many other great people. I could probably sit and name names for an hour. There are so many people that have contributed to this. Tree School was a collaborative effort of providing education hands-on for Norwalk first grade students to come to Fodor Farm and be taught by licensed arborists, by landscape architects, and by other specialized in the biology and care of trees fields. So we've had everything from a presenter share about honeybees to someone sharing about how maple syrup is extracted from sugar maples, to talking about how to design the right tree for the right place. And it's been very well received by the children as well as the teachers. And in fact, the entire Board of Ed recognized this program as a great piece of the educational puzzle in Norwalk. Recently, we designed to expand this program. We designed an outdoor classroom and had that site plan approved by the Rec and Parks Committee of the Norwalk Common Council. And we're working on developing these plans to move forward to have a more formalized space to host our tree school. So back to the issues a little bit that I mentioned. I want to share a few slides with you. I'll get to that one in a second. So why trees? I think we all instinctively know that trees are good, but these are some of the amazing things that trees do. And if you don't know about this, go to the Nature Conservancy website. You can find this information. Trees filter, they cool, they protect biodiversity and encourage pollinators. They reduce obesity levels and asthma. They manage stormwater, they increase property values, and they reduce stress. They do so many important things for us, and it's our job in an urban center to help them survive. In Norwalk, the percent of surface area in our city that has impervious on it is very high. If you look down here on my screen, you'll see Norwalk is right down the 3rd town from the left, 4th town from the left, and you'll recognize it because it has the darker pink and red tones right in the center of it. So we have an incredible amount of impervious area in Norwalk. And our canopy percent coverage is really low. Norwalk actually has the lowest percent canopy coverage of any of the towns in the Western Connecticut Council of Government. This is the West Cog area. You'll notice that our percent canopy coverage, and these are estimates, hovers around 39%, with the greatest being Reading at 78%. It's not that surprising because much of Norwalk is developed area with a great amount of impervious. The challenge that presents is that the urban forest in many parts of Norwalk is either non-existent or highly deficient. And by having a highly deficient urban forest, rates of obesity and asthma are increased. Electricity is used more to cool buildings where we don't have shade from trees. And generally, the area suffers from a lack of biodiversity and pollinators. So here's an illustration from treesaregood.org about what trees do. They do so many things, and they're so important to incorporate into all of the spaces around us. One study from West Cogs says that for every dollar spent on tree care, the Western Connecticut region receives $3 in benefits. We believe in trees, and we believe in what trees can bring to us as a community. I want to share with you some pictures of the things that I've talked about. This is a picture of these fantastic first graders at the Norwalk Board of Ed meeting, where they received a certificate from the Board of Ed and from the mayor for their participation in the Norwalk Tree Alliance Tree School. Here's a close-up picture of some teaching activities during our tree school, where Rich Whitehead, a licensed arborist, is teaching the children about trees. And here's a group of children learning at tree school. You'll see behind them the community gardens that are part of Fodor Farm. So where are we going and how can you help? The Norwalk Tree Alliance, I'm going to go back to our website, which, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to jump on our website, go take a look. You'll find some great things there. So we have our tree planting programs, tree school, outdoor classroom, and our Arbor Day activities. And you can join us by becoming a volunteer, by becoming a sponsor, either personally or as a corporation. You can sponsor, and you can donate to us through a monthly giving program or donating online. Your employer actually might match your donation. Many employers have a matching program that people don't even know about. So ask your employer. If you donate to our organization, they would match. Our upcoming tree planting effort is this one right here, and it's coming up just in a week and a half. On Saturday, April 24th at 9:30 a.m., we are having our first ever community volunteer planting effort run by the Norwalk Tree Alliance. Other groups have done this and done it very well, and we're joining that force. So we're inviting you to come and join us to plant trees at the Triangle Community Center, the First Congregational Church, and Elder House. Every spring, we look for opportunities to partner either on city property or on private property to offer trees to places that need them. And so no experience is needed, no tools are needed. You can just show up. We'll have the materials and the supplies and the trees ready to go. And you can participate with us in planting trees in Norwalk. So in closing, I want to share back on our website about our tree planting programs. This is our core mission at the NTA. We are pushing forward more and more to have tree planting programs. The roster this year will include the Norwalk Hospital. It'll include the 3 venues that I just mentioned. It'll include property in 6th taxing district, property in the 3rd taxing district, and other projects that aren't quite yet fully baked that we're working on finding locations to continue to plant trees. And we do hope that you'll participate and join us in those efforts. Thank you so much.
Alan, thank you so much. The fantastic work that your organization is doing for the city of Norwalk. So thank you. And up next, we have Audrey Kazarin, who is the chair of the Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee. So Audrey, hello. So feel free to share your screen. And,
I will. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. I want to thank the Historical Society for putting on such a wonderful event highlighting conservation and nature in our area. And to be with these other groups. And Alan, that was a terrific talk. I'm a big fan of trees. I'm going to attempt to share screen now. And let's see. Okay. So welcome to the Oak Hills Park Nature Center at Oak Hills Park, which is at 165 Philo Street, right on the edge of West Norwalk. And we are an ad hoc committee of the Oak Hills Park Authority, founded in 2015. And we're there to assist the authority and the park in the protection and betterment of the natural resources in the park. And we have a dedicated group of committee members, volunteers. And our mission really is to advocate for conservation practices at the park, protecting the natural environment and bringing the community, welcoming the community to this sort of hidden gem over behind the restaurant at Oak Hills Park. So when you come off Philo Street, you just follow the main street. There's only one road in along the golf course all the way to the end where you come to the restaurant, come around in behind the restaurant, and you'll see the 3 features that we have for the Nature Center. So let me acquaint you with those 3 features. We have woodland trails, a 1.5 miles of interconnecting woodland trails, a beautiful fountain garden, and a walking path and meadow in a great lawn. So those are the 3 areas that comprise our Nature Center. The Nature Center itself is approximately 12 acres. Let's see, why am I not able to go to my next slide? Let's see. Okay, we have a lot of events. We tend to have about 2 to 3 events per year. And this is a little smattering of some of the events we've had. We've had the poet laureates of Norwalk. On the upper left is Laurel Peterson, and on the upper right is Bill Hayden, have come to read poetry. We've had an art free-for-all, inviting local artists of all types to come and plein air paint in the area. We've held bird watching trail walks, cleanups, winter trail walks, dance performances, even nature yoga. And last year was the pandemic, so we weren't able to, still going on, but we're able to go forward a little bit now. And I want to tell you about some upcoming events. On Saturday, May 15th at 8 a.m., we're going to have a bird watching trail walk with a regional bird guide. You see him in the left-hand photo in the red. Chris Bozak is coming back. This is the time when the birds are migrating and it's early morning. That's the best time to see and hear them. And this trail walk is in conjunction with the Norwalk Library's wonderful nature webinar series. He'll be speaking a couple of days before the trail walk on Thursday, May 13th at noon through the library, acquainting us with all of our native birds. And on National Trails Day on Saturday, June 5th in the afternoon, we're going to have a series of guided trail walks. And the protocol is for 15 people per group to follow the social distancing and other requirements. So the bird watching trail walk is going to be limited to just 15. We're just doing one walk. But on June 5th, we'll be doing a series to try and accommodate as many folks as possible. So I wanted to talk to you about the history of Oak Hills Park. A lot of people know that the park features a public golf course and a tennis center, but a lot of people don't know that there are 12 acres of protected woodlands and open space in the park as well. And I just wanted, since this is a historical society event, just give you a brief history of the park and the Nature Center. So in the 1800s, 1900s, we know that regionally in New England, colonists and settlers cleared a lot of forest for homes and farms. And Alan just spoke about tree and tree coverage. A lot of the forests, as it turns out, were cleared for agriculture and such for a number of, a couple of centuries. And on the Oak Hills Park property itself, there were several family homes with some large areas cleared for probably subsistence agriculture. So the woodlands in the park are typical of the area. The oldest trees tend to be about 70 to 80 years old. So in the 1960s, I went to the tax assessment office at City Hall and found that the families that own the properties that comprise Oak Hills Park, in 1960, the Kozlowski family, and in 1966, the Levine family sold the property parcels to the city. And then I had the great pleasure to speak to former Mayor Frank Zullo about his recollection of the property. And he remembers that the fire department, the Norwalk Fire Department, used it as a training ground and actually burned down the family houses in their training. So that was kind of interesting. It's too bad it's not like Fodor Farm where there's maybe some old farmhouses. And then the golf course was created in 1969. And in 1998, it's a city property, established the Oak Hills Park Authority, which is a leasee of the property, to manage the public golf course and the park and tennis center, and to be financially self-sustaining. In the 1990s, a driving range was proposed. So that meant development of the woodlands and open spaces. And a lot of concerned citizens were and neighbors were quite upset. So they advocated for protection of the woodlands and the open space. They envisioned creating more of a park setting for the community, and also encouraged an Audubon status for the golf course, or reducing it. It's still 18 holes. And it just encouraged the betterment of the stewardship of this city property. In the 2000s, there were walking tours given by a lot of these advocates to acquaint the community with the beauty of the woodlands and the beauty of nature, and enlisting their help in protecting it. The restaurant was built and placed pretty much where the driving range was to go, which really helped allow for the creation of a nature center. In 2015, a master plan was created and completed, and the nature center infrastructure was starting to be built. And that's where the committee that I chair was came in to play. And we were established to manage the nature center and assist the park in stewardship practices and environmentally healthy practices. So the general impact of, and we can't thank the advocates enough who came forward to help protect this property, is that it's led to more holistic management of the park in terms of sustainability and current practices for the health of the environment and wildlife. And like many efforts to protect wilderness or nature, whether people fighting against oil pipelines or pollution situations of the water, of the air, whatever, it can sometimes be very difficult and take a long time. But because of the determination of a group of people, I just want to thank them. And because of some new leadership, both at the city and the authority, the stars are starting to align towards really creating a gem of protected property at the park. So let's go on to the features. The woodland trails. On the map on the right, the yellow, blue, and orange trails that interconnect make up a network of lovely low impact trails, approximately 1.5 miles. And the trail surface itself is just au natural. We didn't put that, there's no wood chips or gravel or pavement. It's a little bit of a hike, a gentle hike. It's steep in some places, but it's lovely. It's meant to be a preserve for wildlife. So we try to keep things quiet. We don't discourage people from bringing their dogs, but the wildlife does sense that there are canines and humans in the area. We try to keep it as pristine and untouched and unspoiled as possible. The white lines in the map delineate private properties and roadways, and the line along the left edge goes along the 18th hole of the golf course, and as it comes down the bottom around the parking lot of the restaurant. The nature trail is marked with a green oval nature trail sign, so we hope that you'll come and walk the trail. And let's move on now to the Great Lawn Walking Path in Meadow. This is what it looked like in 2015 before we cleared the area. There's a lot of invasives here, a lot of burning bush and Japanese knotweed and all kinds of stuff. Underneath all of this, it was discovered there was a little bit of a dumping ground, nothing toxic, but some building materials. And that this was cleared, and this is what it looked like last year. Last September, we started the effort towards creating a meadow, and we planted this small kind of symbolic start to the meadow. It's a 1/4 acre space. So we have a big project ahead. We'll be looking for some volunteers in late May to help us plant this and establish this meadow, truly restorative over what was a dumping ground at one time. So the Great Lawn Meadow, this is from the master plan. The yellow shaded area on the top right of the map is the 1/4 acre meadow area, and there is a gravel walking path that meanders through that area. And we had a ribbon cutting on the top left. You'll see I'm cutting a ribbon to kind of open up the project. And what we're hoping to do, this is a schematic, is this is sort of our planting plan. We're going to do an experiment where we're going to bring in some healthy topsoil for seeding with a mix of native plants. And then the perimeter around it will be planting in the existing conditions. And we want to leave 4 to 5 feet between the gravel walking path and the meadow. And so we're working with Ernst Seed Company, Connecticut Deep, recommended them to us, and planting the New England showy native wildflower and grasses mix, along with some native plugs, which are the small plants that add shade and protection for the little seeds that will start to come up. We're going to be using organic topsoil with 30% compost, and we're either renting or borrowing a push drill seeder, and we'll need some volunteers. This will be in late May, so we're going to broadcast this. And we've got our pollinator pathway shield ready to plant there once we've established the meadow. And the circle, the gathering circle, which is at the bottom end of this area, we are going to be bringing in some rustic log benches or boulders so that school groups and scouting groups or any kind of group that wants to come and enjoy the park and be out in nature will have a gathering area and a center area for a speaker. This is the fountain garden in 2015, before it was cleared. We didn't know this was back here. So those homes that were previously on this property did leave some foundational elements. And this is what it looks like now. So this was last spring, and it looks pretty much the same this year. It's become a riot of about a half dozen types of daffodils and other pollinator. Well, these are not necessarily pollinator plants, but we do have a pollinator garden in this area. The fountain garden, you can see the plan on the right. We, along the wall and the fountain area, we, in 2019, established pollinator gardens. And you see Nancy McClelland on the bottom center there. She is a master gardener locally who has transformed our oyster shell park here in Norwalk into a wonderful pollinator oasis. She gave us guidance and helped us plant. The top left corner, the man in the center is Anthony Hilton. He's the wonderful horticulturist over at Oak Hills Park. He and his crew helped us that day as well. And the fountain garden is planned to be an event space, a very natural and low impact event space. We hope to have some solar panels on a pergola, which will help give us some lighting in the garden. And it's located near the restaurant, so it could have some easy catering ability. So that's what's planned for that area. Our flora and fauna is pretty extensive and actually typical in terms of insects and mammals and different birds, trees, bushes and shrubs. Our trees are so important, as Alan mentioned. They sequester or capture, I heard, half the carbon or pollution from the air. So the older the tree, the better. We've got some old ones, at least 80, 90 years old in the woodlands, oaks of all types, white ash and tulip tree, sycamores and hickories, maples and birches. And, you know, the fauna includes all kinds of birds and possums and raccoons, and, you know, there's wetlands in there. We've got box turtles, you know, so the life really abounds in there. And this is what we need for our environment. The golf course itself, it's an 18-hole golf course. It's quite wooded, and the practices there over the years have gotten better and better as more products and knowledge comes forward in maintenance of golf courses and other big spaces like this that humans like to enjoy. So we're also working towards better stewardship of the older trees, trying to hold on to them as long as we can, because the latest science is showing us that the the planet is in some peril, and that the trees are absolutely key, and the quality of the soil and the water. Obviously, we want to keep everything safe and healthy. The park also includes a tennis center. So if you like to play tennis, you can sign up. These are public facilities. They're open up to the whole community. And we also have a nice website. The Oak Hills Park website itself has a nature tab, and you can drop down and catch the trail map, what events are coming up. We have long lists of all the flora and fauna, and a nature blog that keeps you apprised of what we're up to and what we're thinking. Can always use new members in the chat. I'll put my email if you want to contact me to volunteer or to find out a little more about joining this committee of dedicated stewards. And I hope you'll enjoy coming to Oak Hills Park and enjoy protecting nature as well, communing with nature. And I just want to thank the Historical Society and all the other groups tonight for participating and sharing the beauty of nature.
Thank you so much, Audrey. What a hidden gem! What a hidden gem the
Who
Oak
knew?
Hills Park is, and the nature trails back there. So I'm excited to visit. So up next is Midge Kennedy. She is the secretary to the Norwalk Land Trust. So Midge, you can turn your screen back on, and we will have you begin.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Midge, we can hear you. Do you want to turn your screen on?
No, no, let's just let folks, I'm sorry, my presentation, there we are. Diane is going to help me do this. Let me just start, and I'll just do this verbally from my desk. My name is Midge Kennedy. I have been a director of the Norwalk Land Trust for 15 years, it turns out. And I would like to share a little bit about this organization. Next. The land trust, the concept of a land trust became an important way to conserve land and was very popular beginning in the 1960s and 1970s, in the early days of the environmental movement. Currently, there are about 1,700 land trusts nationwide, and they own or control, by some estimates, up to 60 million acres of land. We, the Norwalk Land Trust, was created in 1973, 3 years after the first Earth Day. So we are 48 years old. We're the old lady here at this group tonight, but that's quite an achievement. We are a tax-exempt organization. We are run by an all-volunteer board of directors. Currently, there's 15 of us. We have no employees. We raise money through membership donations and grants, and we usually have between 300 and 400 members. And I recognize some of you here are members. Thank you. Next, I'd like to just share, this keeps us on track. What is our mission? We seek to balance nature and development by acquiring and preserving land in its natural state for the benefit of Norwalk residents and future generations. Next. This is how we define land in its natural state. Woods and forests that have no trails, a safe habitat for birds and animals and fish and insects. We have 30 such places. One as small as a Volkswagen bus and another as large as 15 acres. Next. This is supposed to be a map of Norwalk. The little green flags are where our properties are located. So we are all over the place with all kinds of properties that we are trying to keep from development. Next. I'd like to just review 3 of our primary goals for the Norwalk Land Trust. The first is to increase open space. The second is to steward these properties. And the third is to provide environmental education. Next. So increasing open space. This is hard to do in a city like Norwalk, which is so overdeveloped. As many of you know, we have been trying to buy a 15-acre property known as White Barn in the Cranberry section of Norwalk. We've been fundraising for years and we just have never been able to raise the $5 million that it was going to cost us. It was recently resold to another developer who's going to start cutting trees as early as next week. We have saved 5 acres of this property and maybe we will get another 5, but the 15 acres would have been a wonderful, greatly expanded habitat. But for now, folks can walk on the 5 acres, meditate, forest bathe, paint. The birding is spectacular. And if we can play the little video, Diane, we can say, this is what you hear. Or not, maybe you just have to view it, but this is a stream that runs through White Barn. This is what we're trying to keep and protect in the city of Norwalk. Next. We are very fortunate to own a number of properties on tidal estuaries. They are such an important resource, second only to the rainforest. Long Island Sound is a tidal estuary. But specifically, we have land on Wilson Avenue and Samus Street at Farm Creek and Yost Street. This is Yost Street down by Manresa. This is what a beautiful, it's a beautiful, beautiful property. We have 3 acres of this as ours. And we're very lucky to have it. Next. Being able to look at birds like this is one reason why we are so thankful to be in a city like Norwalk and why it's important to preserve space. Next. Our best known property is probably the Farm Creek Preserve. It's 16 acres in total. And it took us 5.5 years to raise $4.3 million so that we could buy the sort of centerpiece of the land. We had it on either side, we were missing the middle. Many of you probably are familiar with this, our stone barn. But this is where, this has got everything in it. And it's the source of, it's where we have our education program. There's also a 10-acre peninsula that is off limits to animals and people. We're trying to have that be safe for birds and area animals. But on this property, there are trails and wildflower meadows and forests and tidal marshes. And as I say, it is the location for a lot of our fundraising events. Next. Here's one that we have every few years called Discovery Day with parents and kids, and it's been great, great fun. Next. Stewardship is another goal, and this is an ongoing problem for us, and we will probably always be doing it. We've had 7 cleanups already this year. We have 2 scheduled for next week. On the left, you'll see this is one we had a few years ago, and look at all the crap that we found. It's always amazing to us that people will lug debris and things for long distances. On the right, you see someone removing a car battery from Farm Creek. The nearest road is 1/4 mile away, which means someone carried it all this way to dump it illegally. It's mind-blowing. But if you'll show the next thing, we now think that things are getting much, much better. And that enables us to do a better job of stewarding our properties. Trash removal has given way to invasive control and plant introduction. So on the left, we're cutting down strangler vines, and we're trying to keep, do some other things on stewardship. And on the right, we have we're planting wildflower meadows wherever we can, trying to put all of our properties on the pollinator pathway. And here is some milkweed that we have growing in abundance at Farm Creek. It's a much better use of volunteer resources if we can do this kind of business rather than trying to dig up the spare tires. Our third goal involves education. In 2009, we created a 4th grade education program, which has been very successful for the 12 Norwalk elementary schools. We created a PowerPoint lecture that we take into the classroom, and it fits with the earth science subjects that are being talked about in the 4th grade. A few days after our appearance in their classroom, they all come to us on a half-day field trip, a trip to what we call nature's classroom. And volunteer field guides take 5 or 6 kids at a time on a scavenger hunt to explore the land, the water, the sky. We get dirty and wet and we have a great time. The next slide, I don't know if we can show this. This is on our website though. It's a little short video of oh yeah, here we are. Well, you missed the music, but here's what happens. Just a little highlights. The kids have a wonderful time on these trips. It's always better than they think it's going to be because they get to touch and feel everything. They get to go where they want to go. They get to learn a lot of things. And it's a really win-win-win situation for all of us because the volunteers that we have that come out and they're trained, they know what they're seeing, they know how they're explaining, some serious science concepts. They have a wonderful time. And some of these kids are seeing this kind of property for the first time in their lives. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful program. It was suspended last year because of COVID and again this year, but we hope to get it back up and running in the next year. And if you get just one marine biologist out of it every year, we'll save the world for all for the cost of the buses. Next. Oops. So I just want to say that for this program, it's a real win-win experience for both the teachers, the kids who have a good time, and the guides who we have a lunch at the end and we all end up in tears because of stories that we can tell about these children. Next. So I would like to end just with an acknowledgement that in today's environmental landscape, creating partnerships and working together is a beneficial and massively important tool for good. An organization like the Land Trust can lend its voice, provide a setting or seed money, or find volunteers to expand the reach of other organizations, and other organizations can and do help us. Together, we can get so much more accomplished, and it's vital that we do that because we know that time is of the essence. And so I'm happy that part of the Tree Alliance we've been involved with, the Pollinator Pathway, we were here to try to conserve. Next. It's important. A lot of our constituents cannot speak for themselves, but we can and will. And just my last slide. This is our land. This is our logo. Come find us. Happy Earth Day, and check the website for dates when you can come. Thank you so much for having us here, Historical Society. It's a great chance to get together. Thank you.
Midge, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation and the work your organization is doing. So up next, we have, I'm just gonna make sure that we are muted. So up next, we're going to have Louise Washer from the Norwalk River Watershed Association and the Pollinator Pathway. So Louise, you can begin anytime.
Okay, thank you. I want to warn that my dog is barking, and so you might hear her. But thank you so much for. I'm so honored to be part of this group. I want to talk about the Norwalk River Watershed Association. We are also an all-volunteer nonprofit. We work to protect water quality and fish and wildlife habitat. I want to start by just showing a picture of the watershed in case people aren't familiar with the. It's 40,000 acres. It is 7 towns, starting in Ridgefield. The Norwalk River starts in the Great Swamp up in Ridgefield, and it actually goes north for about a mile, and then across and comes down Route 7 all the way down to Norwalk Harbor. The two biggest tributaries are the Comstock Brook, which goes through Wilton, and the Silver Mine, which starts actually in Lewisboro, New York. This is where the water from the first taxing district comes from, the 4 reservoirs that are along the Silver Mine River here. And a watershed, in case people aren't familiar, every bit of water that falls in this shaded spot ends up in the Norwalk River and in Norwalk Harbor. So I want to talk about water quality. I don't get to talk about water quality enough. And it is our passion. It's why we're around. We have made progress. This is a picture that Jeff Stedman gave me of, I think it was Jeff, of what Oyster Shell Park used to look like when it was a dump. So we've cleaned that up. It's beautiful. As somebody mentioned, the Norwalk River Watershed Association, now we have been working, and Nancy McClellan is our chief over there. We've been working for a couple of years now, every Wednesday and every Saturday morning. We're there taking out invasives and planting natives. We have a big planting of trees and shrubs, 54 trees and shrubs going in on May 15th. We need volunteers. So that morning, come down to Oyster Shell Park and help us plant trees. Part of the reason we know that water quality is improving a little bit, that we know about water quality in the Norwalk River, is because of Harbor Watch, which is an organization out of Earth Place that has been monitoring the water quality in the Norwalk River for more than 20 years. So we're really lucky as a watershed to have all this data. We also are lucky that in the late 90s, when the Norwalk River Watershed Association was started, a bunch of amazing volunteers, including Diane Larcella, who I think is on the call tonight, put together the Norwalk River Action Plan. So this is really our guide for how to improve water quality and wildlife habitat in our watershed. And the improvements that we've seen come mainly over the last few decades from improvements to the wastewater treatment plants. There are 4 wastewater treatment plants on the Norwalk River, one in Norwalk that we're familiar with that's been upgraded, and then 3, one in Georgetown and 2 in Ridgefield. And those upgrades have made a huge difference. What happens actually still in Norwalk though, but what used to happen at a higher level, is that when we have big storm events, which we have more of now, all the storm water rushes into the system and overflows it, overtops, and we get raw sewage going into the harbor and into the sound. So we still have that happening in extreme events in Norwalk, and that's something that needs to be addressed. But the technology of cleaning the water before it goes back in has gotten so much better. And the great news is that the Ridgefield treatment plant, which is really needed to be upgraded for a long time, it's happening now. So we're going to see improvements coming as soon as that's done for our river. So that said, we still have a ways to go. Norwalk last year for E. coli failed 75% of the time, did not meet the state requirements for the state minimum for E. coli levels in the river. But we're not alone. As you can see, 70% of Connecticut's rivers are impaired. This is a picture actually in Wilton, behind the Wilton Y, where there's this bus and limousine place that backs up right to the river and washes their trucks there. So these are the challenges. The pollutants that are in the river, nitrogen, phosphorus, and E. coli, I'm going to kind of talk about more. But road salt, we're seeing more road salt as we move from sand to salt. PFAS, which if you're not familiar with, is a class of chemical compounds that has been around for a long time. It's in all of us. It's in all of our blood now. And it's now that we're recognizing what a threat to human health it is. And there's actually 2 bills before the legislature now in Connecticut that would ban PFAS from firefighting foam and from consumer packaging. So I encourage you to reach out to your representatives to say you support banning PFAS. There were PFAS levels found in some drinking water wells in the first taxing district, which required them to be closed. So it's an issue for us. Drugs and hormones, I mean, everything that goes into our body ends up going into the rivers. Pesticides, microplastics, sediment from erosion and construction, and then oils and gases, petroleum products. Our roof shingles are made out of tar, which is petroleum based, and from our roadways and parking lots. And all of those things, the way they enter the waterways is through stormwater runoff. Many of you probably know all this, but just in case you don't, this is the main, I also have a little movie, Midge. This is the main source of pollution now that we've improved our wastewater treatment plants. We now have to look to stormwater runoff and what we can do about it. This is one of my neighbors who sprays pesticides right next to this drain that says drains to watercourse. So I had to take a picture of it one rainy day. So I kind of talked about all of these problems and these substances that enter the waterways. The other thing that happens that causes especially nitrogen, phosphorus, and E. coli spikes is leakage from septic systems. So, sorry. So this is the NRWA. This is what we're going to start focusing on, really trying to do some outreach and education about. This is something we can do. This is something we as homeowners have to fix, is our septic. So this is just a little picture of how a septic system works. If there are any leaks along this system, then the sewage goes into the ground and doesn't get treated and spread out the way that it needs to in order to be filtered through the ground before it reaches groundwater. And I mean, I've known for a long time that improperly maintained septic systems were a cause of water quality impairment. But it wasn't until last fall, I was working on a grant proposal, and we really want to try to clean up the source of the river, the Great Swamp up in Ridgefield. We're really focused on working on that. And so I started studying the action plan, the watershed-based plan that Diane and her crew back in the late 90s put together. And I saw, if you look at this management of septic systems, if we as homeowners and septic owners would all have our septic systems inspected, pump them regularly, do what needs to be done to keep them in working order, we could reduce nitrogen load by 36%, total phosphorus by 59%, and E. coli by 15%. So this is just a huge opportunity for us to, as a community, to really help improve water quality. And why are we doing this? We all know we're doing it for the environment, but we're doing it for ourselves and human health, and we're doing it for jobs. We're doing it for our amazing oyster industry that we all celebrate. I mean, Norm Bloom and Dick Harris have helped me understand all these issues so well. And I was talking to them a couple years ago. 2018 was just a really rainy summer. And Dick showed me, he was talking through how this affects their industry. And he said they have the ability. So when there's lots of rain, there's all this runoff and all these nutrients and pesticides and things come into the water. It affects water quality hugely versus summers where it's not as rainy. So in 2018, when it was so rainy, there were only 3 weeks during which recreational shell fishing was open in Norwalk. So Norm can pick up his oysters and move them out deeper and put them in cleaner water. But for the recreational shell fishing, which is just has to stay put, there were only 3 weeks. So I just think that's a great connection to make. When it's rainy, this is what happens. So what can we do? We can reduce our lawn size. I'm going to talk more about that. Plant buffers. So if you're along a wetlands or a stream or any waterway, mowing right to the water, your lawns are basically the same as a driveway in terms of creating stormwater runoff and carrying toxins into water. So if you have planted edge with shrubs, perennials, trees, it'll capture that water and kind of keep it on your property and allow it to filter down and get cleaned up before it reaches our waterways. Rain gardens are a purposeful way of doing that. That's where you dig out and create a sort of a catch basin, a planted catch basin, to catch runoff maybe from your roof or your driveway. Avoid pesticides and chemical fertilizers. Never blow your leaves into wetlands. As Dick Harris is the one, I don't know if he made this up or everybody calls it black mayonnaise, but when we blow all the leaves into the rivers, they go down to Norwalk Harbor, they settle on the bottom of the harbor in this black muck that then the fish that need to lay their eggs on the floor of the harbor and the sound can't get to it because of this black mayonnaise. Clean up pet waste, dispose of hazardous waste properly, and maintain your septic. This is going to be, I'm working with a group from Greenwich, and we're going to actually try to make this a county-wide effort to create like a, get pumped campaign, and to have two towns compete with each other to see, put little signs in your yard after you've pumped your septic tank. So anyway, look forward to hearing from me about your septic tanks more. I actually have an agreement with Palladino Septic of New Canaan that they'll give free inspections to people if you mention NRWA. And so I also want to talk about water quantity, because that also affects water quality. If we don't leave enough water in our rivers, there's not enough there to flush out all the stormwater, the toxins from the stormwater runoff that we are creating. And we think in Connecticut and across New England that we don't have to worry about water. There's tons of water, we don't have to worry. But as we're all sort of starting to understand, that's kind of not the case anymore. Climate change is creating more drought situations. This chart just shows from 2012 to 2017, we had a really severe drought in Connecticut that we're still kind of recovering from. Last summer, we had another sort of mini drought. And so one example in our watershed that I have to mention is Comstock Brook, which is a really important source of clean, cold water for the Norwalk River. It is home to our native brook trout, and it is also a drinking water source for the second taxing district, the South Norwalk Electric and Water. And Wilton at Middlebrook Farm Road, there's a dam where they divert for about half the year, all of the water from the river down to the reservoir in South Wilton. So this means we have this beautiful stream that's so important to the environment and to the health of the main stem of the river that's dried up, that's fragmented. So fish can't reach each other. They can't reach, what the food sources. So what can we do about this? I mean, one of the problems, the main problem, is the way we use water outside. Aquarian has the statistics for Southwest Connecticut that in the summer, 70% of the water is used outside. Across the country, 9 billion gallons of water a day is used to water people's lawns, basically. If you have an irrigation system, you will likely be using 40% more water than people who don't. So I talk about this because I feel like people don't make the connection, because I didn't used to make the connection, that the water we use in our yards is coming out of the environment. Even if it's coming from groundwater, that groundwater is what supplies streams and the river. I mean, when Aquarian was proposing putting a new drinking water well in Cannondale next to the Norwalk River, it was going to be just right next to the river. They were going to be taking groundwater, but their studies showed it would have reduced the flow of the Norwalk River by up to 20%. They were going to say they were going to cap it at 20%. So anyway, one of the things that Norwalk River Watershed Association did was to help with other advocates to push back against that. And actually, Cannondale the well didn't end up happening, thank goodness. But what we can do is conserve. I mean, what we can do as homeowners is to join the pollinator pathway, rethink our lawns. The pollinator pathway message is rethink your lawn, plant native plants, avoid pesticides. It's a project that NRWA, we were so lucky to be part of the group of original conservation organizations that came together around this idea, and is really just exploded. The NRWA is the fiscal sponsor for the Pollinator Pathway, because it hasn't become a 501c3 yet, or it's really just an idea. It's a grassroots movement. And we are sort of shepherding it at this point. It started in Wilton and Norwalk, and it's now in 250 towns across 8 states. So it's been a great way to talk to people about the environment. We say that the butterfly is the charismatic character. Like, you can say to people, do you want to talk about your septic system and whether or not it's working properly? You're going to get a no. But if you say, do you want to bring more butterflies to your yard? You get a yes from everybody. So then once you're there talking about butterflies, you can get at why things like septic and rethinking your lawn matter. So I also put this in because since I was trying to talk about things that we can all do to help improve water quality. One really important thing that's happening right now is that there's a bill, SB 1037, to update the Connecticut bottle bill. So Connecticut was one of the first states to have a bottle bill in the 70s, but we have never updated it. So this is from a cleanup that we had in Norwalk on the Harbor Loop, just below Norwalk River Rowing. Last Saturday, we pulled out 4,700 pounds of basically this stuff, so many cups. Norwalk has been a leader. Skip the Plastic Norwalk has done amazing work and has made us really a leader. We've banned styrofoam, which was the main culprit that we were seeing in the cleanup last weekend. But you'll also see bottles, and you'll see nips, and you'll see glass. And so there's so much scientific evidence to show that if we could raise our deposit level, anyway, go to the website and you can read all about why you need to be an advocate for updating the bottle bill. And please let your representatives know you support this. There's 2 bills to restrict PFAS, which I mentioned. There's information about those on the website. And then there's also a bill that we oppose that I just wanted to take a second to mention. It expands the tree cutting authority of Eversource. So it would mean that Eversource would not have to confer with the city tree warden or with private property owners before cutting trees near their right of way. So this is SB number 950. So I just think that with our tree canopy being so depleted, with all the work that all of our groups are doing to plant trees and to protect trees, we just don't need that bill to pass. So anyway, I wanted to take the last few seconds. I know I'm probably almost out of time, but I wanted to take the last few seconds to just introduce you to the Norwalk River. If you haven't seen it, maybe you're in Norwalk and you've never seen it up in Reading and Ridgefield, or maybe you're from another town and you don't know the Norwalk parts. So this is a little mini virtual tour. This is a map that we sell on our website and it shows all the hiking spots that I'm going to point out. And this yellow line is the Nrvt, which you're going to hear about from Beth right in a few minutes. So this is Ridgefield Reading line, the Great Pond Trail. This is actually right off of, kind of off of Route 7 around, anyway, you can look at the map and see, but it's so beautiful. It has all these old mountain laurel, and it's meandering and absolutely gorgeous trail. Bobby's Court and Topstone Preserve. This is actually where the Nrvt is going to go through in Ridgefield. So Beth might talk more about this, but also very beautiful. That walk starts here at Simpog Turnpike. Every August, the NRWA has a butterfly walk with Victor Damasky there. So look for that at the end of the summer on our website. Bennett's Pond, I have not taken enough advantage of this. I just figured out how beautiful and how easily accessible it is. You can also reach it right off of Route 7 or from a different area in Ridgefield, but just absolutely beautiful, and miles of hiking trails. Woodcock Nature Center right on the Ridgefield-Wilton line, and Weir Preserve, if you haven't been to these spots. Right now is an amazing time to go because the vernal pools are full of newt and frog egg masses. And the peepers, everybody's heard. Quarry Head and Harrison Smith in Wilton, also beautiful. Quarry Head is a state park. Belknap Preserve, one of my favorite places. This is in Wilton. You'll not see anybody else there. And you get a real history of the land, feeling land use. Like this used to be farmland. So there were all these stone walls. Now it's forest. It takes you back. And then the Wilton Loop, this is along the Nrvt as well. This is a picture of it in the lower right corner. Just absolutely beautiful. This is a spot on the pollinator pathway that we have been working on along the trail with Beth and those guys. Merwin Meadows, also the Nrvt goes right along the Norwalk River here, and beautiful. Bradley Park is probably my favorite place. This is just a little tributary to the Norwalk River that comes in the town of Wilton. But right now, if you go right now, you will see this bloodroot blooming and the Dutchman's breeches and beautiful mushrooms, but the best mushrooms to find anybody who's into mushrooms, Stonebridge Waterfowl Preserve in Weston. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now to Norwalk, the missing link is going in, which I know Beth's going to talk about, but we're working with those guys at Nrvt to help restore the riverbank and working with Eversource it's at this substation area. So we're ongoing projects there. There's some Eagle Scouts coming to do a project in a couple weeks there. So if you're interested in riverbank restoration, we got work for you there. Oyster Shell Park, I mentioned, this is ongoing every Wednesday and every Saturday. We're there, and we really need volunteers May 15th to put in some trees and shrubs right here along the riverbank. Harbor Loop, this is from our trash cleanup last weekend. This is the area that we were working. It's just another like great way to see the river, to take a look at the inner harbor if you haven't. And then people there were talking about the Norwalk Esplanade, which is down below this and is apparently like a birding hotspot now, full of all these warblers that overwinter there. I don't know. We have to ask Chris Bozek, who we partner with the Norwalk Library on the nature friendly gardening seminars or webinars. So if you haven't come to those, they're fantastic. There's one on Earth Day coming up. And here's our Trees for Bees planting on Saturday, May 15th. Trees for Bees is sort of a group grant that we put together with One Tree Planted and a tree company that is a donor. And so we actually have 16 conservation organizations that are planning 17 events, and we're going to put in 3,000 trees and shrubs. So the Norwalk Land Trust is one of the groups that joined us for this big, massive, like tree planting extravaganza. And so that is it. Thank you so much for the time. If you have any questions, you want to get involved, check our website and or email me.
Thank you so much, Louise. And actually, there goes my dog barking. So see, it's what happens.
I escaped.
Virtual tours or virtual lectures. But Norwalk Historical Society, Mill Hill Historic Park, we're proud to say that we are on the Pollinator pathway, and we are right by Norwalk River. So thank you so much to your organization for making sure that the water that we drink and also the habitats are clean. So thank you. And last up is Beth Merrell from the Norwalk River Valley Trail. So this is a great sort of piggyback onto Louise's presentation as we learn more about how we can enjoy the Norwalk River. So I am going to turn it over to Beth.
Hey there. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am Beth Merrell. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Do you want to undo your screen?
I wanted to share the video, the slides. Do I need me on as well?
You don't, no. I mean, it's totally up to you.
I'll say hello face to face. I don't know if you can see me or not. Can you see me?
Yes, we can. Yes,
okay, great. So you're only going to see me for a minute as I introduce myself, because I'd rather focus on what I wanted to share with you guys. Thanks for inviting me. I didn't know everybody who was presenting, but I do know Louise. In fact, we happened to be together, and that was a great tee up. Louise, thank you so much. Let's see how I get my face out of here, or do I?
I can do that for you.
Thank you. Get my face out of there. That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you. End of a long day. So I'm the executive director for the Norwalk River Valley Trail. We are a 501(c)(3), and I will tell you a little bit about our history in a second. I am an employee. I am the executive director. I'm a part-time executive director, and I am compensated. We do have an all-volunteer board of about 16 people. And when I looked at the roster earlier, I think 2 of you are out there. So be kind to me when you talk about me later. We have been, the concept of the Norwalk River Valley Trail really started here in Norwalk. And it started in 1979. There was a master plan to introduce the concept of a multi-use waterfront trail. However, let's skip ahead because basically the first official section of the Nrvt did not start until 2001, and that connected the Maritime Aquarium to Matthews Park. Okay, so we are in the process, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Norwalk in a second. We're in the process of building 30 miles, and Louise was kind enough to share that yellow line going up her map. We're building 30 miles through the heart of Fairfield County. We start at Calf Pasture Beach. We run through the city streets until we get to the aquarium. There we go on sidewalk, go over at Oyster Shell Park, cut up by the transfer station, cut across through the lovely old cemetery at Lockwood Matthews Park, go around the mansion there, cross the road, and go up to Union Park along the side of the highway. It's on its own path. There it has been sitting. There was a sign that basically said to be continued. That's been sitting there a long time. And I'll share with you how the process of how many authorities we have to go through in order to build a trail. From there, it's the missing link, which is under construction right now. And that ends up by the substation, the Eversource substation by Broad Street. At that point, we stop because we have to cross the road and then go over where the Rowayton and the Norwalk rivers combine.
Beth, your screen is not shared.
Oh
Yeah,
no, how did that happen?
Yeah, you got to click
Oh, okay.
share screen.
Yes.
I don't think that was me.
No, Beth, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to the bottom of your screen and click screen share.
Yeah, I did that before, but now you're not seeing it. When you turned me off, when you muted me, did you?
No, I did not. Nope. So you should be able to click on screen share and another screen will come up.
Hold it. It's not even on there anymore. Dang nabbit.
If you click screen share, Beth, it will show you again a blue button that says share. You have to click twice.
There is no screen share button, is what I'm trying to say.
At the bottom of your
all I can see right now is Louise Washer's thing. Sorry, let me try to rebuild. No, I don't have it anymore.
Click your Zoom, click the little Zoom, I don't know.
Yeah, like the Zoom icon. You might have
the
to
Zoom icon might reset you.
Yep.
I found my screen share at the top when I went to screen share.
No, my screen share was at the bottom and I did click it, but I asked not to be shown and I came off. So I don't know how to get back on. Very sorry. I'm a good talker, but apparently I'm not a good clicker.
Do you want to send it to one of us? And
I need to get back on Zoom. I'm not even, I mean, you can hear me.
All you have to do, click your icon. If you look in your bar, your menu bar, there's going to be a little Zoom icon, a little blue thing. Click that, and it should put you back.
I have clicked it. Nothing is happening. It says Louise Washer. That's all it says. Louise, it's your fault. All right. You cannot start because the host has stopped it, is what it says.
You should be.
That's your video.
All right, I'm going to make it multiple and let's see if that works now. Try it again.
Mm.
Do you want to email me your thing and I'll put it on?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to do that next. Let me talk while I'm doing that, because I have to build this back up. I will talk about the history of the Nrvt. So we were a concept back in 1979, but didn't have anything built. How am I going to get off? Wait a minute, let me try this. How about that? Can you screen share now?
Uh-oh.
Here,
Oh,
hold on. Am I
it's
back
working.
on?
It's working, yep.
Oh, you did it.
What can you see?
I can see your kind of like a Google page, so you're
Okay.
I
gonna,
can see your screen. Afghan.
yeah. We can
All
see
right,
your-
hold on one second. Can
you'll
you?
click on your
You
PowerPoint.
did it, Beth.
You got
Woo!
Yay.
Sorry, folks. With 1,000, I'm going to full screen. Okay, please show. Can
There
you
we
see
go.
it? Thank you.
We got
So
it.
sorry.
You got it. Perfect.
All right, we got it. All right, sorry about that. So 30 miles to the heart of Fairfield County. I was just going to do the details of Norwalk. I got you up to Broad Street, and where we have to cross the river. That's going to take us a while because we have to build a bridge, which is kind of an expensive thing to do. After that, we zoom up under the power line corridor of Eversource, which is basically a cleared out area predominantly. So that should be fairly easy, but that's going to be a ways down. And then we connect up into the Wilton area. Okay, so our mission is to build and maintain a 30-mile, 10-foot wide multi-use trail from calf pasture, as I said, passing through Wilton, Ridgefield, Reading, and ending up in Rogers Park in Danbury. And when I say multi-use, what does that mean? Well, it means it's a lower grade so that it's handicap accessible. In the city of Norwalk, the lower part of it is will be a paved path, i.e. asphalt, as opposed to the bulk of the trail, which is crushed stone. Let's see. Okay, these are some of the kinds of activities, and you can see, Nancy, I saw that you're on there. There's your picture. And so you can see some of the scenes from Norwalk. We do have wonderful, beautiful boardwalks. We do tend to follow the river, which is hence the Norwalk River Valley Trail. We are predominantly through a lot of DOT property, which was originally set aside for the building of Super 7, which of course did not occur. So that didn't occur, but it's given us the opportunity to plan to go through a lot of that property. The routing study for Norwalk River Valley Trail was created in 2012, which actually identified the basic area of where it's going to go through. Now, as we build the trail, we have 8.2 miles currently built. This year, 2021, we're adding another 3.4 miles. Let's see. Okay, this is just, I don't know if this is going to work or not. If it doesn't, I'll skip, but I'll give you a shot. This is just a visual overview about us. You getting that?
Not quite. It's kind of slowly loading.
Yeah, that I can't make the speed happen any faster,
Okay.
but it'll pop up in a second. As I said, the trail in Norwalk, at least from the substation down, is either asphalt or it's sidewalk. And north of that is stone dust and boardwalk. And I'm going to skip this because I don't think it's going to load. I tried it earlier and it loaded, but don't know what to tell you. It was kind of cute. Okay, so we're going to skip right over that. Basically, it shows you what our trail looks like and where it is. And if you have not been on any part of the Nrvt, if you live in Norwalk, you might not have even heard about us. As one of our board members says, we haven't been a thing. We haven't been a thing because we haven't really done much in the way of building. And yet we've been busy. We have some very active members of the board who are busy planning signage, increasing the ability for bikes to be able to travel safely, and to plot out where the rest of the trail exactly will be. And in terms of other things like seating areas. And Okay, so what is the Nrvt? We are a well-loved trail. In Norwalk, we're listed as the #1 amenity for the town of Wilton. And yet, as I said, in Norwalk, a lot of people don't know we exist. Our trail and trails in general can be associated with higher property values. So if you have a trail somewhere in the vicinity of your home, it's actually a real plus because it increases walkability, exercise, good health. And one of the other things about our trail is as we go north, we are within proximity many times of train stations. So that theoretically down the road, when we've got 30 miles built, you can jump on the train in South Norwalk. You can get off near Ridgefield. You can ride your bike down. Or conversely, you can go up to Danbury and tootle around up there in the beautiful, beautiful Terrawell Park, and then take the train back down. During COVID-19, our trail traffic increased by 280% in the early stages of the pandemic. Why? Because being in nature is good for people. Being able to breathe, being able to be calm. And how do we know the numbers, by the way? Because the state of Connecticut, there's an authority in the state that has infrared readers in I guess 20 trails in the state, so they keep track of how many warm bodies go by. And yes, indeed, a deer will light up the signal as well as us. Our trails are great for everyone. They're not that steep. They're nicely graded so that you don't have ponding water. They're perfect for family walks or hikes, for cycling, for birding, jogging, and running. We're also pet friendly, so that we welcome pets on their leash with their owners. And we do hope that our pet parents do learn to and continue picking up pet waste. And we're also expanding this year, which is a very big deal for us because we've been quiet. All right, so when we do a project, and regardless of what town, as I said, we use a lot of DOT, Department of Transportation property, which means it's either state funding or leasing from an entity of the state, which means that we are under very strict guidelines and that we are watched over by a number of and have to apply to a number of authorities. We have to pay attention to highways, environmental compliance, railroads. We do make a couple of railroad crossings, and we're in proximity to other areas of the railroad and going under bridges that are near railroads. The Connecticut Deep, FEMA, of course, which is federal, and that's spelled wrong. It's ACOE, which is the oh my gosh, the Army Corps of Engineers, sorry. Okay, also right away, we also have most of our property, as I said, is DOT property, but we also have to be concerned with the few areas where we have to cross private properties, be they residences or businesses. We also have to work with Eversource because we are under some of the power structures, and also near Broad Street, we are right next to their substation. And Louise Washer and I were there yesterday meeting with Eversource, both in terms of the pollinator pathway and the desires to keep the invasive things like knotweed in control, but also in terms of creating and improving that property for the use of many to enjoy. Additional kinds of things that we have to pay attention to: floodplains and floodways. We avoid any impact wherever possible. And we may require, the area itself may require hydraulic studies and permitting to make sure that we don't impact how water moves. Wetlands, same thing. We avoid any impact, and town buffers are highly regulated to prevent any kind of wetlands damage. And that's really important for, you know, little frogs, for trees, and for the animals and the birds and the bees that live there. It's also wonderful, by the way, that we do go through wetlands because it gives humans a chance to see the beauty of them and to greater understand how important these are to us. In terms of trail design parameters, not only are we, concerned with how it looks and how it meanders, we also have to think about how bikes can go on a trail. And AASHTO is a required guidelines tell you, well, you can't have certain kinds of sharp turns because people might smash into things, for example. Of course, then there's utilities, poles and underground lines, drainage culverts. We have to pay attention to all these things when we build. So it's not straightforward. We just want to build there. We have to do these. But I think there's one more screen. There is still more. So in terms of grading and earthwork, it's key to the design, and walls are built to maintain a grade if necessary. Obviously, we try to disturb as little of Mother Nature as possible, with exception within we have usually a 30-foot ribbon. 10 feet in the center is our trail, 10 feet on either side for access. We also have to think about things like the archaeology of the area. There may be some native remains of some kind, spearheads, whatever, and we avoid or build on grade where any resources have been identified. Contaminated areas, environmental studies are definitely performed before our design is completed. And by the way, all of these things cost a significant amount of money. And of course, then there's endangered species and the trees impact, and we have to determine where there might be any endangered species. Again, think of something like wetlands, and we try to save large trees wherever possible. We love the trees, we love the beauty of them, and we understand their importance. And when we have the opportunity, we do veer around them when possible. So this year in 2021 in Norwalk, where it says bike route ends, that's the beginning of what's called the missing link. That's when it's going up along the highway and then crosses over by 40 Cross Street and goes under right along the river. It's gorgeous, a gorgeous piece of property. What that does is allows people to return to see the river, which, for probably in the last 100 years or so, was initially things like mills, perhaps farmland, but also definitely there were some mills along that portion of the river. And then they just kind of sat vacant and people didn't really pay any attention to the river. It's very pretty. It's very pretty, very peaceful, and it's going to be highly, highly enjoyable and beneficial to those who walk in the area. Will Walk is a combination section, which is Wilton and Norwalk. That section is up near where the DMV, where Gristmill Road is near the DMV. And it goes from there over towards Kent Road, which is in Wilton. And there's a spur that's going to go down and cross under Gristmill Road that connects into Glover Avenue, which is right near the Curb Apartments. And that will provide access to the trail for about 4,000 people that will be living along that road. Also in Reading this year, and I think that Louise referenced this as well, that's a terrific piece of property. It's an old logging road, very wooded and very, very pretty. So we're adding 40% more trail in 2021. So again, the Norwalk missing link is 1 mile from Union Park to New Canaan Avenue. It's under construction as we speak. In the Will Walk section, all the contracts have been signed, and this was a particularly challenging section for us to build, not because of the property, but because in addition to all of the guidelines that we have to obey from the state, et cetera, we also had to deal with both the city of Norwalk and the town of Wilton. And to try to get that many attorneys and everybody agreeing just took quite a long time. And it's about 1.2 miles, and it's a lovely wooded trail. In Reading, it's about 1.2 miles from Pickett's Ridge to Fire Hill Road. Next year, 2022, on the table for us is additional in Wilton. In Wilton, we have the East Loop and the West Loop. The East Loop goes from near where Orem's Diner is, if any of you are familiar on Route 7. It goes from there up to a road called Skunk Lane. It's about 2.2 miles from Route 7 to Skunk Lane. From there, we're going to be going to Pimpawag, which is near the Cannondale train station, for those of you who might know that charming little section. And the first section of it is a lot of wetlands, and we're going to be building a lot of boardwalks. So it's a very, very expensive section for us to build and to license and to get all the regulations done. But that should be under construction sometime next year. Ridgefield, Ridgefield is a absolutely drop dead gorgeous piece of property, and Louise showed you some. If I can get my video to run, you'll see it. But it starts at that pond that Louise was showing you, and then runs up and will connect directly into the Reading section, which will give us 2.8 miles of very beautiful. It starts along the river and a pond, goes up into the hills, goes through what we call a sheepfold, which are two low stone walls, connects into Reading. And last but not least, there's Danbury, which will be our first showcase section in Danbury. It's in the beautiful, beautiful and large Terry Wild Park, which I forget, I think it's the largest or one of the largest municipal parks in the state of Connecticut. Okay, so again, this is a picture of Reading. I'm not sure if this will run or not. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This is Ridgefield, which is where she was. Oh, it's going to. It's favoring me today, guys. I don't know if this is going to work with you or not, but we'll try it. Let's skip the ad. I don't think we need that, do you? Can you hear and see?
We can see it, but we can't hear it. So
Ah, shoot. Okay. That's the pond. That's what the trail looks like. Most of our trails are stone dust. That's where it exists right now. That's what our signage looks like. There's the pond. And this is our sheepfold, which is that's how they originally looked. Now, we rely on funding, both we apply for state grants. We have, of course, beyond state grants, we also, of course, solicit private donations. We do not have any membership. The trails are free to everyone. We do some fundraising, which we'll be doing more as we build out. That's a little section in Terry Wild Park that we're going to be building. And that's another video, but I'm not going to try to play it for you. Basically shows a lot of people having a good time. When completed, our trail will be in proximity from a couple miles in either direction to 924,000 people. We do know that people love our trail. We do know that people need access to nature, both for exercise and mental health. And especially during this pandemic year, we learned how very important it is to all of us. So in conclusion, We hope that you will learn more about us. Our website was just recently redone as well, and we are nrvt-trail.com. We hope you'll join us, try out the trail. If you know people who can donate, that would be terrific. On average, it costs us $250 just to build a foot. That $250 is for all of the regulations and all of the construction and all of the boardwalks, and all the things that we have to do to make a wonderful, healthy environment for people to come and be outdoors. And lastly, of course, if you know of anybody who's got lots of money or has grants, we would love to hear about it. And that's me. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you so much. And I think we're going to turn it over to Diane, our director, who will be running the Q&A.
Yes, so I'm looking, there's lots of positive messages coming through on the chat. If you have specific questions, please place them in the chat to ask our panelists. I think I was impressed, as well as all of you, on what's going on here in Norwalk and around the region to protect our environment presently and going forward. So if you have any questions, please place them in the chat and we can ask our panelists any questions that you may have. And if any of our panelists, if you want to turn on your cameras and your speakers, that'd be great.
Yeah, Diane, I just want to say that it's an amazing opportunity to hear from the different groups. I've learned a lot, even though I'm familiar with these other four groups. I'm getting
Hey,
kind of a
Diane.
feedback. I hope you're not.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback, but also I can't start my face if you want me because it's been turned off by you guys, I think.
That's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Not that I want my face in front of everybody, but that's okay.
There
Here you go, your face is there now.
Beth, I was going to say there were a bunch of questions about, maybe if you mute yourself, that might stop the feedback. I don't know. But there were a bunch of questions about the missing link that Louise and I were answering. I'm not sure. We want to make sure we said the right thing. So you could look at that.
You can, because you were answering, so you can say them out loud about the missing link.
Yeah, people were asking, I just want to make sure I answered it. How will people get from Union Park to Broad River?
Right.
I'm sorry. I have such feedback. You bounced in. I heard something to Broad River is all I heard. What was the question? Please repeat.
It's in the chat. How will people get from Union Park to Broad River? That's the missing link, right?
Yes, that's the missing link. So where it stopped right now, where I had the sign that said bike route ends, it's going to go up to the building that used to be Virgin Atlantic, cross the road, go over to behind there up to 40 Cross Street. At 40 Cross Street, it veers left, it goes under the highway along the river. And then it goes up as far as near Casatelli Tile, up by near Wendy's. And that's where that ends. However, then you just cross the street and that's where the substation is. And you go along, there's a lovely pathway in there. It's a very pretty pond in there, and that'll cross up to Broad. And there it ends.
That's probably what that question was. People don't know there's already a trail between the substation and the river that you wouldn't see unless you
it's a very short piece right now. It's very short. So it's going to be wonderful. That's going to be connected. And as I said, Louise and I were there yesterday discussing some wonderful possibilities of improvement for that section.
All right, there's a question. What are the plans for connecting the East River Trail under I-95 to Calf Pasture?
So I think, do people mean under where it goes under 95 and go like from Matthews Park to Oyster Shell Park?
whoever, Jennifer, who put that in the chat, might want to expand upon that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I feel
yeah.
confused.
Part of that most southern part is on the road, right, Beth? As you get down
From the aquarium south to calf pasture is road, yes. There are signage, and it's going to be improved signage. One of our wonderful board members is working on that right now. But yeah, there's sharrows for bikes, there's signs for walking, and that goes down to calf pasture. So it's not an off-road trail, it's an on-road trail. Oh, she means the Harbor Loop Trail, Louise?
She means, yeah, she means the Harbor Loop.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
I think referring to that bridges is guessing, and that is a project that, by the way, Harbor Loop has not officially been part of the Norwalk River Valley Trail. However, I believe if you stay tuned, you might hear more about an adoption process, if you will. But what I can tell you is that they are working on a way to cross the river on the bridge safely. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think that answered her question very well. Again, if there's any additional questions, please put them in the chat. But I think our presenters were just wonderful, very informative, and I am very happy that we could get all 5 of you here tonight to talk about what's going on. It sounds like there are special events coming up that you want people to know about. And I want to start with Audrey. Is there anything coming up, Oak Hills, that you want people to know about?
Yeah, actually, we found out about something today on Friday, the 30th at 1 p.m. The mayor is going to be doing a ceremonial for Arbor Day, planting some trees in the Great Lawn at Oak Hills Park in our nature center. So that's kind of cool. And then May 15th, we have a bird watching trail walk at 8 a.m. And on June 5th, we have National Trails Day with guided trail walks. So those are 3 opportunities that even beyond events, there's so many opportunities. And as you can see, besides the pavement and development of Norwalk and our region, we have many, many treasures and gems sprinkled all over. And we've heard about a lot of them tonight. So those are some events coming up at Oak Hills.
Great. Louise, what's coming up?
So we have the series of talks at the Norwalk Library, one on Earth Day, the 22nd, and with Pete Cone, and then Chris right before you can hear him on the 13th of May at the library before going and on the walk with him. And those are continuing. Those have been like amazing. So check our website and the libraries for those. And then we have our Trees for Bees plantings. The first one is May 15th at Oyster Park. We're doing one with the Norwalk Land Trust. I think it's going to be the first weekend in June, though it's not set yet. And then we're having plantings in Reading and just all of the watershed towns are going to be planting trees. So just check the website for those are going to be coming up.
That's great. It's going to be lots of activity, and there's no excuses for not getting involved, right?
No,
there's something for everybody. And Beth, anything else coming up? Unmute.
Oh, you're muted.
I just talk a lot with my hands, so it's very easy. Yeah, our next major thing will be when we dedicate the new missing link. That'll be sometime in August. You'll see a lot of it in our PR. In terms of volunteer activities, we have them periodically, time to time, depends on what we need to do. Some are cleanup events, some are planting events that we can try to help Louise out. We will have something upcoming pretty soon in that Broad Street area that we were talking about yesterday. And we just launched on our website, a brand new volunteer section to go and click, put your name in, tell us the kinds of information that you're interested in helping out with, be it events, be it, collections of things, etc. and we'll reach out to you. We'll post from time to time events that are actually happening, but if you get on our website and a roster, we'll know that you're out there and interested. Also, we just decided that we're going to be at the Oyster Festival this year, which as of right now is listed. So we're going to have a booth there. So we'll be sharing all the wonderful things that we're doing with the people, the 36,000 people that attend that event. And we're very excited to share the news of how we're growing and what we do, and especially the new Norwalk section. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. I think we are done for the evening. Again,
You know what, Diane, let's just hear from Midge Kennedy. Let's hear about any Norwalk Land Trust upcoming events.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
Midge.
Diane,
I'm on top of my screen. Sorry.
Diane
And then
is my-
after Midge, if Alan can jump in and let us know if Norwalk Tree Alliance is doing anything as well. So Midge, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what happened to my face, but that's okay. Thank you, Diane. We have 2 cleanups coming up, a small one this Sunday at 8 Pink Cloud Court from noon to 2, where all the, there I am. We're going to cut down invasives and get trash and make fast work of that site. A larger one, though, is on Saturday, April 24th from 10 to 1 at Farm Creek Preserve, which is at 34 Samus Street. That's a big property. We have a lot of things to do. We may even start attacking Phragmites. I don't know. That's hope for. Then we're working with Louise and on May 15th and having another tree event on June 5th. So, but right now we're going to get through Earth Week. We're doing a lot of cleanups because it's easier at this time of year, and it's when everything sprouts and turns green. You know, these turn into jungles. So we'll see. So I have those 2 events coming up. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And is Alan, are you on? He may or may not be on. All right, so I think we have everybody. We have the latest information, and we'll have follow-up emails with everybody's website, so everybody can go check out what you're doing and get involved as you need to. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful, and we're going to wish you a good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane and Sam.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here.
Thanks for including us.